Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing all right. Today I'm going to talk about the books that I've been reading for the last 4 months. I kind of had an idea when I started doing my last video, like BookTube again, that I would keep you more updated. Um, but time passed and still there's 15 books here that I'd like to talk about and they're in somewhat of a order. I look at this and I'm like, wow, I really picked some like great reads. And a lot of the ones that I'm going to talk about first, like I don't have a fully formed thought just because it's been like such a long time since I read them, which is unfortunate and why I actually do want to update you more. So I can actually give good thoughts about stuff and things. So this was supposed to be the book club book for the Climate Fiction Book Club the last time before we quit. Go! But what happened was that we weren't coordinated enough. It was really unfortunate because I would have loved to discuss this book. So this is The Membranes by Chi Wei. I think it was published in the 90s in Taiwan, maybe. And it's a sci-fi following futuristic sci-fi following this world that is now taking place underwater, I believe, and no one really goes on the ground except to like have wars and stuff, which is so bizarre. And you follow this one woman who takes care of other people's skin, and that's her job. And then we get to cover a little bit more about her background, her past, as like we go on in the book. I really love this book. I did give it 4 stars because the ending just I did really like it and appreciate this book, but it was just maybe like a little bit too far out to the point where like as a reader you can't predict where it's going, and I would like to have like some clues along the way where the ending makes more sense. And I think that's why I knocked it down to a 4. But I was like fully invested in the book, like from the minute I picked it up, like the reflections um about humanity seeing the world in like this dystopian setting, but only following this one person and her background. It's just really fascinating. The skincare and like some of the technology, it was really cool. It's very much like written kind of like a contemporary book about this one person's life, even though there's like this world that you're like, how did this happen? We have so many questions. But this was just really good, and it's very queer, and uh, the queerness really came forth as like the book progressed. I was just really excited that I finally read this. I thought it was brilliant, and I do recommend this to people. It's also a fairly easy read. Also, did you check out my shirt? Check out my new comfort pillow. So cute. Gosh. Yeah. Graphic novel, Mimosa by Archie Bongiovanni. So Archie wrote the Quick and Easy Guide to They Them Pronouns, and I didn't know they like were making full length like novels like this, but I got really excited when I learned about this. So this is an adult queer fiction story based on these group of friends. I think they're 4 people, and they're all like well into their adults. I'm talking like late 30s, early 40s, which is, I think, is so cool that there's a queer friend group story about these like, yeah, adults. I have never seen that before. And I think it's really cool that this was made. It's very messy, like the relationship between these people, like both following their like love life, their personal struggles. One of them has like a kid and is trying to grapple with like their ex and trying to date again, and also being queer in like the middle of all of this. I think this was really good. I don't remember if I gave it 4 or 5 stars. I think I possibly gave it 5 stars. It's so real, the characters and their struggles, and at the same time, like the way they are allowing themselves and each other to be messy is really nice. And the ending was also just like very realistic. It's not like a happy-go-lucky story, but it just felt like really honest and real. And having a queer adult story like this in comic book format, I bet it's like so healing for so many people. Highly recommend this. Also, the art style, it's quite a thick book, and this edition's nice, I think. The art style is like black and white with a few colors, mainly like this teal color. I think it's really nice to read. These characters are just very unlikable, I guess. They make so many mistakes, but I loved reading about it. Then I picked up this book. I didn't know about it, but I saw it at my bookshop that I volunteer at, ARC Books. Winter in Shokcho by Elisa Schwan Dosapin. So this follows this woman who works at a hotel over the winter in this town, Sokcho. Gosh, I should have looked up how to pronounce that, but it's like in South Korea, like on the border of North Korea, and they don't really have like a lot of tourists during the winter. But this one man comes and stays at the hotel, and our main character kind of becomes interested in him or like kind of curious about him. He turns out to be a comic book illustrator, which was kind of like what piqued my interest in this book originally. It's very slow and, in my opinion, kind of bland. It just wasn't my type of story. Yeah, I don't have a bunch to say about this. I thought maybe it was going somewhere that it wasn't. It wasn't like a romance story. It was just kind of more like a companionship story, and it doesn't have a lot of plot. There was definitely like interesting elements and thoughts that were going on with our main character regarding like her relationship to her mother. It was quite interesting, and her life in general. But yeah, I wasn't a huge fan. I think I gave it 2 stars. And then I picked up this cute graphic novel, Star Nights by Kay DeVault. I'm not sure where I heard about this. I think it just came up as like a recommended on Goodreads. This is what the art looks like. This is kind of like a middle grade fantasy, by the way. It's about this frog who kind of grew up learning about the myth of these like star knights, who are these people who like came down from the sky and were knights and like admired, and there's all this mythology around them. And this frog and other animals, which are kind of like humans, but they're animals, in this world, other animals, they're not humans. Animals, oh my god, Wilma. Other animals in this world are like other kid animals. They also just like want to play knights, but this frog doesn't want to play, or can't play with them because he gets bullied because he's like a gross frog creature. And gross creatures like frogs and spiders and mo- mush. What is it called? Fog. Mog? Is that a place like the marsh animals? I feel like I'm missing like a word that's right in my face. Marsh animals are kind of like seen as like the witches creatures and gross. And of course, like there is a lot more going on with this mythology of the Star Knights and the witch being bad. And you throughout the book you get to like uncover like this is not actually true. There's something wrong here. But our main protagonist, he wants to like fit in and just be like the knights and play with the other kids. And he's like internalized all this so much that he starts to like bully this other little creature. But it's just like the story, the journey, like the lessons this book had to like teach kids, or like it's just so beautiful. I really enjoyed it. The art is really nice, and it's like complicated, but at the same time not. And I think in the beginning I got like a little bit annoyed at how long the story took to develop, but at the end I was like, this is great. So I really enjoyed this one. Then I read Cursed Bunny by Bora Chung. I picked this up because I found this queer book club on like Queer Exchange Denmark. Um, and they were reading this book, and I kind of had my eye on. I had a bunny on the cover, so I picked it up. And it's a short story translated from Korean, and it's kind of like a little bit magical realism, a little bit horror, short stories about mostly women and like the different weird scenarios they're in. I remember the first story very vividly, of this woman whose poop and toilet paper and pee and excrement kind of became like a body that was coming out of the toilet. Um, Very interesting. And the other stories are kind of like that, a little bit spooky. Some are like a very more like ghosty, I guess. I think I enjoyed this, but the themes were very much the same, I think, throughout the story, with the a lot of reflection on like what is the role of the woman, like kind of challenging those like cultural heteronormative standards. And I enjoy that. I just feel like the theme is a little bit too drilled in literature and books that I am finding it harder and harder to find like a new angle or like something, a theme that I connect with this theme, or a conversation I connect with this theme. So I probably give it 3 stars, but I'm very glad I read it. Alrighty, I had to take a little break because my camera battery sucks. Any Other City by Hazel Jane Fonte. First off, great book format. We encourage this book format. I heard about this from Sage, I believe. I thought it was a fiction, and then I started reading, and I'm like, this is awfully a lot like a memoir. Um, and then I had to look it up, and like, yeah, it's like a fiction that's written like a memoir. So apparently, I just read the back, and it's a follow up. Should I have read the first one, Little Blue Encyclopedia? Probably, to fully grasp like the beauty that is this. Was it necessary? Absolutely not. I absolutely adored this. I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was incredible. It's written in 2 parts. The first part is kind of not really letters, but a text written to their first love, her first love, Tracy's first love, and the second part is written to their last love, like currently, that they just broke up, and it's about her journey with music and realizing what she wants to do with her life and all the people that for various reasons come and go in her life, and also who she is, being trans. And the second part focuses on like how horrible the relationship was and her coming back from that and kind of going back to the city, I believe, where the first part is written. This was just amazing. It was written in like a very digestible way, but it felt like a lot of it felt like very true to home, and a lot of like the culture felt very familiar while still being, you know, a lot of like fictional music, and stuff like that. I have no bad things to say about this. I thought it was really great. I loved reading it. I got really emotional at some parts. I think look up some trigger warnings for this because I think there's a lot of stuff like that we realize about her later on that's like hard to read. But yeah, I just really love it, and I do really want to read the first one now. I think it's a brilliant concept to write a book like a fictional memoir. Even like the author writing themselves like into the author's note at the beginning. I thought that was cool. If I had any critique of this, I have forgotten it by now, so that's excellent. Then I picked up this graphic novel. I went to visit the queer bookstore in Malmö, Sweden. That's called Page 28, I believe. And I just found this one there randomly, and it seemed interesting to me. It's Thieves by Lucy Bryan. This follows this girl who is gay and out, and the book starts off with like her being very close friends with her best friend, and then she kind of goes to this party and gets blackout drunk and wakes up in the morning with a lot of like objects from this party. And she's like, oh my God, did I steal all this last night? What the hell do I do now? I don't even want any of these things. I gotta get them back somehow. And so the rest of the book is divided into her trying to get these items back to the original owner without them like noticing. But along this, she kind of gets in a relationship with this other girl that she like really has admired for a long time, and it's about the parallels between like the story and the relationship and how we learn more about both the people as we go along. I think it was beautifully made. In the beginning, I was laughing out loud at the expressions of some of the characters, especially like her best friend. Such funny like illustrated expressions. I love that a lot. uh the illustration style is like very varied. There's a fairly monochrome, but it like jumps from like different um monochrome. It jumps from like different color palettes, sort of in like different parts. Some of it does deal with like feeling anxious and depressed, but I think it's just so well done. It flowed very easily. I gave it like 4.5/5 stars. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it, but also I haven't been on BookTip for a while. But I recommend this one a lot. That's like halfway done with books to talk about. Now, this book I had so many thoughts about when I was reading it, and I wish I could put them all into this video, but it was a while ago. It was a couple of months ago now, so I don't remember everything. But I finally picked up Loads by Shola von Reinhold. A lot of people talked about this book as like it's hard to understand and encompass everything that like the author is trying to say like inside your brain. And I very much felt that way. There's so much in this book that I just like I cannot with my little unintelligent brain understand everything. But I was just such a ride to read it. It is like fairly slow, but I was always interested in picking it up, so it's didn't feel like a slog reading it. But I did take my time like with this book. Do I have the main character Matilda? So Matilda in the beginning of the book works or volunteers at this museum archiving a lot of stuff and things. And she's essentially like a scammer in a way. Like she scams her way through life by changing names, moving when someone gets to know her too much, forging a lot of stuff. And she happens to get into this residency, Dun residency in the outskirts of England in Dun. And they're studying like this guy there. I don't have the context. What was, gosh, I forgot so much. Yeah, I remember now. So they're studying this guy there who had like a certain philosophy about art and stuff and things like that. Matilda gets like these, she calls them like transfictions, where she gets like really obsessed with a historical character that wasn't really documented. And the main one that we read about this book is Hermia Druitt. And all of these people are black people who had a sort of like decadence and enjoyment of like the finer things in life, and she wants to know everything about them, and she searches for like literature and everything for these people so she can just learn more and devour more. And she's like such a interesting character, Matilda. It's about art and the history of black people and black people's like want for nice things. And there's like it's very political, but in more of a quiet and reflective way. And yeah, it kind of like it goes off from there. I don't want to tell you the whole plot. Also, I'm awful at like actually explaining the plot, so I don't know why I spent so much time doing it. But just like the reflections in this, like it was just brilliantly composed. Like I don't understand how the author managed to put all of this together into a book, and it really felt like Shola was just writing whatever they wanted, and I felt that like this felt like they were really enjoying making this. And sometimes I was like confused about why certain pieces of like literature was in it, why like descriptions of certain photographs was in it. Didn't matter like in the end. I didn't feel like it all came together, but yeah, a lot of it like really stuck with me. But I do think that's also because I took my time with it, which I do recommend. But it's kind of like the author's just forcing me to give it 5 stars because I don't know what else to do with this. Like it would be like a shame not to give it 5 stars. Like I just feel like it's that good. Yeah, highly recommend. It's not a new favorite, but I'm so glad I finally read this. Then I picked up a Bingo Love Jackpot Edition. So this is like the collected of all of it. Also includes like other art related to this story. But it's about this like a lesbian couple and their journey from being friends when they were teens to or tweens maybe to finding each other again when they're married and have kids and finally growing old together. And that's kind of like the plot of it. But it's not really about that. It's about like the wholesomeness. Like it's never too late to like find your way back to yourself, finding what's important to you and how to spend your life. And you know, like it's about love. It's very cheesy, but I also enjoyed it. The ending was heartbreaking, but also excellent. It's kind of like just one of those great stories that you just enjoy reading. Sometimes it was a little bit idealistic, but it also has like a harsh reality of like the base of the story is not ideal, you know? So I enjoyed it. It probably gave it like 4 stars, something like that. Also, this one's very queer and like grapples a lot with queerness. forgot to say that, but I felt like that was a given. Then I picked up this one. I found this one at my local comic book store. It's Gumballs by Aaron Nations. So this is it's a collection of comics that kind of have some reoccurring characters that are fictional, and a lot of stories are about Aaron's own life and about growing up trans, and a lot of the things he's like realized while transitioning. So it's part autobiographical, part fiction, short story comics. Um, some of them are like dating profiles, and it's a mix of match of all types of different stuff. But I wanted to pick this one not only because it's queer, but also because it's similar to like what I want to make. I want to put like a collection of recurring characters of stories into like a little scene slash comic. And so I wanted to like use this as inspiration because I thought this is such a cool concept to like display your comic style in. It doesn't need to be like a full on story or just like a collection of uh, one page comics. It could be like a mix and match of all of it. And I think the format of this was great. It really worked. What I will say though is that it is not written for like a trans person. It's very much written for a cis person because a lot of like trans stuff is like explained in the comics, and I thought that got really repetitive and boring for me personally, but that's very much like a me critique. Like I don't need to know about, like the effects of testosterone or whatever. But there's a lot of cute, funny moments. I think it could have been funnier because it is kind of like a comedy, comic type of thing. But I gave it 3 stars. I did expect like more from it, but I also find like a lot of inspiration in this, and I enjoyed it. So coming down from my volcano hype, I picked up this one because I thought it was kind of similar in the premise. It's All City by Alex DeFrancesco. So this also takes place in New York, where there is a huge flood and kind of displaces a lot of people. And we follow like a lot of different characters, and our main character, Michaela, who's 24 years old, she is one of those people, and she just happens to visit her friend when this flood happens. And so it's about like all the drama that happens after this flood, and her trying to like survive, how the city organizes like help and boats throughout the city because everything's like canals now, and the cruelty of humanity, but also the goodness of humanity. Later on, there's also like more people that we follow, quite a few like trans characters. I just thought this was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. It's a super easy read. It's kind of written like young adult in the writing, but the themes are very adult. There's a lot of, yeah, adult things happening. There is a case of like SA that was like very descriptive, I would say. And the main character is like working through a lot of trauma, and a lot of the other characters too who are homeless, even like before this natural disaster happens. And there's one character you follow that is rich and uh, manages to escape this flood and like comes back later. And the contrast of her perspective with like all the other characters was so well done. Like the way the author compared her experience, her feelings that are written like very real and not like ironical or like to be funny. Like those were real, valid feelings. But the contrast to her experience to everyone else's, it's wild, but also so good. So I gave it 4 stars. The ending was just like, oh my god, tears, so many tears. But it was refreshing to read like a adult book that was kind of like written like a young adult, because it's not always that I want to trudge through the adultness of literature, and have something that's like easier to read but has the themes and stuff that I want. So by no means did this like compare to My Volcano, because it's just like not written the same way, but it's follows a disaster that happens in New York and this variety of characters. So I enjoy this a lot. I kind of like a book I found randomly, and not a lot of people have read it, but I enjoyed it. Then I picked up this book, which is very famous, Seconds by Brian Lee O'Malley, a famous graphic novel. Its format is fun. I've never picked this up because the book itself is just so expensive. The colors are beautiful. The story is interesting. It's about this girl who owns her own restaurant, and she's trying to get a new restaurant in the city, and she's renovating it. And what happens is that she like finds this little creature on her shelf, and then later that creature's not there. She's like, "Who's this creature?" And then she eats this magic mushroom, and she gets like to go back in time and like redo something. But she does it too much, and it's just like spirals from there. I thought the illustration style was very cute. Personally, I think it's a little too long, repetitive with a lot of it, but it also makes sense. I think like the themes and the lesson here is fairly unique. That you should trust the things that happen in life, and like going back is not great in general, I guess. But I think I gave it like 4 or 3 stars. I'm not sure I really get the hype, but it was just like a very well constructed graphic novel. Oh my god, 3 books left and my battery's running out again. That's no fun. This is Legends and Lattes. I heard a lot of like hype around this book. It's a high fantasy but feels contemporary. You follow this main character, we're not going into names right now, who has been living a life of like adventuring and slaying and going on quests with her group of friends, but she's collected enough coins, I suppose, to open her own cafe that's called Legends and Lattes. And so she settles down for the first time in her life and tries to like open this cafe, but everything doesn't go as planned, stuff and things like that. But it's all super cozy, like the descriptions of her like building this cafe, and coffee isn't really a thing here, but she like introduces coffee to the new city. It's just very cozy, nice to read. This person also starts to like work at her cafe after a while, and it's about the community that grows there. It's like about the past coming back to haunt you. But I just thought it was a nice read. I didn't like love it, but it was kind of like a page turner in many ways. I did think it would get a little more steamy between these two characters than it did. It was very tame. It's just very cute. Then recently I picked up Manhunt by Gretchen Folker Martin. This is about Beth and Fran, two trans women who are like surviving the apocalypse. This virus has made all men into like the savagest animals who eat each other, eat anything, who like assault each other, like horrible stuff. This is like a gory horror, by the way, apocalyptic horror. And Fran and Beth, they like harvest the balls of these men so they can make estrogen out of it. It's about their friendship, their dynamic, and then a lot of other people are like come into this world, and we get more perspectives throughout it. It is also about these turfs who kind of uh, thrive on the fact that all men are bad and trans women are men, and there's a lot of like wild rhetoric going in here, but it's like it's so funny at the same time using this world to emphasize how wild a lot of like trans rhetoric and how hypocritical and how ignorant it is, the way it is like displayed in this book. I thought it was like fun to read, but also very like on point. So I enjoyed that. I think some of the characters, like there's this one doctor who is fat, and I think her story, unfortunately, was very much told through like her struggles with being fat, but in the background, when we hear her backstory, I felt like there was like a lot more to her, but it's very much assumed, and I wish she was more of like a full developed round character. I didn't love it. A lot of the story was just like, I have no idea where this is going, especially the ending. I was like, how is the author going to wrap this up? But somehow it happened. I'm glad I read it. I enjoyed the goriness of it, actually. It was fun. But also, yeah, look up trigger warnings and stuff, because there's just a bunch of stuff and things. Then I picked up this graphic novel. This is When I Came Out by Anne Mette Kerulfsen. It's a Danish name. So this is translated from Danish. I read the English version because I cannot read Danish. Here we go again. Third take. I was talking about this book when I came out. It's a story part based on the author's real experience of realizing that you're gay kind of late in your life. So it's told through like these bunnies. Like the characters are bunnies, and our main character kind of starts seeing women like on the side of her marriage, and together with her husband they do like therapy, and their therapy is like based on intimacy issues and not having sex and stuff like that. And then throughout the book she like gains more and more confidence with who she is. That's like kind of what the story's about. It's like fairly simple. The art is like quite funny, like because it's like she's drooling over some characters and they're like a pig or whatever, and they like don't really look like attractive at all, but like the illustration style is just kind of funky like that. I enjoyed it. I'd probably give it like a 3 stars. It just didn't like go anywhere that like particularly uh interested me. So yes, those are 15 of the last books I read over the last 4 months or so. Alrighty. Well, I really enjoyed talking about these. Comment down below if you're read any of these, your thoughts on them, or if you have any recommendations for me about what's been going on around these queer speculative book circles that I have missed out on, because I've not been in the loop and I've been trying to get back to watching my regular like booktube content. But for some reason it just like doesn't pop up on my feed anymore. Struggling to find the people that I was watching a lot and not remembering their names. So I'm kind of like out of the loop of what I like going, being especially loved. Tell me what you've been reading. If you've been enjoying it, just talk to me in the comments. I appreciate you watching me. Hopefully I'll see you soon again. Have a nice day.